This is the Sandman podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with the third chapter of season 2 of the Sandman, More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Avoid.
May I just say a thing?
You may.
Without your getting angry.
I fear it is too late for that.
No, I mean angry at me. Why not give it to Azazel? Just for argument's sake. How was his home? He and the other demons have no place to go, so if giving them the key would free you and Nada, then why not? I'm sure you have a million reasons.
No. Just one. Azazel will never be content to rule hell. He will use it as a foundation to conquer every realm, including ours. He cannot be trusted.
Was Lucifer particularly trustworthy?
I will not be extorted.
No. But where does that leave Nada? And since you know you can't trust Azazel, which of our guests can you trust with this?
Welcome back, fellow dreamers, to TV Podcast Industries. We're on to the third chapter of season 2 of the Sandman, More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Avoid. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow dreamers. I am your other host, John. Welcome back to the podcast. This time we're talking about More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Avoid. What a mouthful.
It is, absolutely. The third part of the first arc, and the closing of the first arc. I was calling this the Hell Conundrum, I think, in my mind. This arc of 3 episodes is what's going to happen to Hell. That kind of works, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it was. Like, who's going to get it? Who's going to get the keys to the house? I mean, there was that. It was also, in the end, it's like, Nada's like, oh, you shouldn't have saved me.
Well, I'm out of here. Yeah. You should have saved me a very long time ago, maybe.
Dream is a little bit of a nightmare for Nada, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sure I've used that phrase once before, but for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get into our chat about the third episode. Hope you've been watching along, and thanks for joining us for our podcast all about the Sandman so far. If you haven't subscribed to us, please make sure to subscribe over at tvpodcastindustries.com. And if you want to share your thoughts, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries.
Absolutely. Shall we get into our spoiler-filled discussion? Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, the executive producers of the show, of course, are Alan Heinberg, Jamie Childs, and David S. Goyer. These first 3 episodes cover the issues 21 to 28 of the Sandman original comic, which came out between December 1990 and July 1991. And this episode is directed by Jamie Childs, as he's directed every episode of season 2 of Sandman. The teleplay for this episode was written by Alexander Wise, off the back of his episode in season 1, which is episode 8, Playing House.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah. Same team together for season 2 for the most part.
Definitely.
Yeah. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the third chapter of The Sandman and More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Avoid?
Sure. Following the banquet for the delegates who wish to claim hell, the fairy ambassador Nuala runs into Dream and they recount their first meeting. In England, 1593, Dream inspires William Shakespeare to write A Midsummer Night's Dream and makes him play it for King Auberon, Queen Titania, and their courtiers as an attempt to heal a rift between the Dreaming and Faerie by making mankind forever remember the Fae through the play. King Auberon and his Queen Titania love the play and make amends with Dream. In the present, Dream discusses his dilemma with Nuala, and she provides guidance based on that first meeting. The next morning, everyone assembles to hear his decision. Dream ultimately decides to return the lordship of hell to the Creator, provoking Azazel into attacking him. However, being in the Dreaming, his seat of power, Dream easily overpowers Azazel and saves his former lover, Nada. Before his departure, Cluracan reveals that Nuala is a gift to Dream from Titania, and Dream reluctantly accepts after Nuala herself agrees to stay. As the rest of the guests leave, Dream finds that Loki posed as Lord Susano to avoid returning to punishment in the underworld. After pleading for leniency, Dream plans to replace him in his torment as long as Loki agrees to be in Dream's debt. With the conservatorship of Hell resolved, Dream approaches a retired Lucifer and they peacefully part ways. Later, he apologizes to Nada. She does not accept his apology and leaves for the waking world instead.
So, as you mentioned, Dream does not get his way, despite what he wanted to get. Doesn't get his way with Nada at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
She gives him a bit of home truthing, I would say, which is really good to see.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our top moments from this third episode, the third in the arc, really, because we kick off here with Nuala waking in the middle of the night to her brother. I would guess is having sex with the server or somebody else anyway from the banquet.
Well, that's it. Even in the Dreaming world, the walls are thin.
They are, yes. The walls are too thin.
Or Cluracan is very, very loud.
He is, yes. Now, I think Dream could have fixed
the walls.
Indeed. As it is. It is something that is within his power. But I guess in the terms of eternity, I think Nuala needed to be at that particular place at that particular moment to give Dream the guidance that he needed and the memory that he needed to help guide along his thoughts, yeah?
Yes, she shouldn't have been dreaming at that moment in the Dreaming world.
Exactly. She needed to be awake to have a chat with Morpheus and lead him back to a Midsummer Night's Dream, basically. The past together. So here we are. We have the inspiration for A Midsummer Night's Dream is what Morpheus gave to Shakespeare back in the day.
To immortalize for the mortals the immortal fairies.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really enjoyed this. Again, I like even just the fact of, having Midsummer Night's Dream, really, one of Shakespeare's plays with Puck and the fairies. It's a real unusual one. He's got his Titus Andronicus and all that, the Roman plays, the ones, the House of York, the War of the Roses, all this kind of stuff, those types of ones. But, this has this really interesting sort of aspect that it focuses on, a fairy in his writings. And I like the fact it's Morpheus, asking him to do this so that, he can heal this rift between himself, and, the Queen of the Fae, Titania, and also just between their realms as well, the differences between their realms. And I just like how he brings this, play here, to build bridges and mend those relationships. I love that it's done at Wendell's Mount, sort of linking back to those kind of Neolithic stone, pictures on the sides of hills that were done. I like that Wendell becomes a portal to the fairy realm so that they can come through in order to watch Will Shakespeare's play. And
Cute little idea,
it's just really, really good.
Like it feels like the type of thing that, a kid who's driving by in a car would see those massive effectively drawings on the side of a hill in England and go, I wonder what's behind that. I wonder what the inspiration was, and for it to be the guardian of a portal to the world of the Fae just sounds really cool. I really like that idea.
Yeah, no, it's superb. I mean, the Long Man at Wilmington is, one of the more of the older structures. I think there's the White Horse as well. Then there is another man, which I think is a newer, it's like within the last 200 years, they kind of replicated it.
Right.
But I think certainly two of them are, the original, not the copies.
Right.
So to speak.
Gotcha. And I think there's a moment of that as well when Morpheus is speaking to Will, and Will Shakespeare is saying to him, "This is a very odd place for a play to be happening." And he goes, "But it's been here long before your race. We're here." And he goes, "Wow, the Normans." And he's like, "No, humans. Long before the humans were here, this used to be a place where the plays would take place."
Yeah, exactly.
I have to admit, John, and you have more knowledge of this than I do. I have to admit, I don't have much knowledge of Shakespeare's plays, so this is one of the plays that I don't think I know much about. Midsummer Night's Dream. I know the absolute basic of there being a playful minx of a fairy in here who's known as Puck. I know that. That's the only character I know. And honestly, I would say it's probably from this story in the Sandman that I probably learnt that. I don't think I learned very much of it in school at all. They weren't going through a period of teaching people Shakespeare when we were kids. They were doing completely different stuff when we were young. So I don't know many of his plays. Do you know Midsummer Night's Dream much?
Not particularly. I may know only slightly more. I mean, like I know at school we did things like Macbeth and stuff like that. And I like Taming of the Shrew, but
I remember that from a moonlighting episode.
But I mean, Midsummer Night's Dream is about sort of going into this dream and there being the fairies and so on. So it is like, I mean, I don't know it very well. Again, I would only know Puck as the main character,
right?
And it's not something I've seen in ages. And I haven't seen a Shakespeare play in years,
at least 20 since
I would have been with my mum, like because she was mad into the theatre, so would have gone and seen Shakespeare. You know, as a kid, it was like, oh god, not Shakespeare! I don't even understand the words. And it's only kind of later that you kind of get some appreciation of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. You may know less than me, but I don't know very much.
Right, I get you. Well, we were watching plays about the Troubles in Ireland. I think it was the 3 plays that we did rather than any Shakespeare at all. So yeah, I was probably sick of those instead.
Well, I think I rebelled and started sort of watching Ibsen, which Ibsen plays.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. No idea who that is.
Cherry Orchard and all that kind of stuff.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
But
not that I repelled with theatre, dare I say it.
I like it, John. I like it.
That sounds so horrific. But no.
But what we do have in the episode here is Midsummer Night's Dream is based on characters from Fae. It is based on the King and Queen specifically, their story, and the gift that this is effectively Morpheus has had a problem with the land of Fae. He used to visit there very often when he was younger, but then was banished from it. And his gift back to them is to make sure that forevermore their land will be remembered through this play written by Shakespeare that he's inspired Shakespeare to make. And we also see here that they have a character as well. Puck himself is based on another member of the Fae, played here by Jack Gleeson, who everybody probably knows most well from his time on Game of Thrones as the horrible King Joffrey. So here playing another pretty awful character, but
well, no, he's mischievous.
He's
not a psychopath.
He's not a psychopath.
He's a mischievous. Like I think he's referred to here by Auberon and Titania, you know, as being a fool, and even Morpheus says, "Well, a fool's prerogative is to utter truths that others dare not." So. You know, I don't think, he's not Lord Joffrey. No, it's just, he's mischievous and annoying is what he is, but that's because he's mischievous.
Exactly.
I think he's a stirrer, of, poop. Shall we say.
Well, yeah, exactly, because what we see him do is, after they've seen the first half of the play and everybody's enjoying it a lot, Puck kind of goes, hang on a second, nobody's going to play Puck. If I'm here, I'm the one that gets to play Puck, and he takes over the role.
I'm Robin Goodfellow, Puck, aka Puck. I'm going to play him because he's in the play, and I think
nobody else can play him as good as him.
Exactly. I mean, interestingly as well, that this is the last time that the fairies visit the mortal realm, and so it is about sort of immortalizing this mythology of the fairies to humans. And it's interesting because you have this really nice conversation between King Auberon and Dream, and it's reflected back to him by Nuala once the kind of flashback and the story of how they first met but didn't actually meet takes place. And he talks about tales and dreams, all the shadow truths, that sort of mere facts will be dust and ashes over the same time. The dreams, the stories, the tales persist through time as they're passed between people, whereas the mere facts become dust and ashes. And Nuala says that again, after, she basically, in a sense, is telling the dream here that, in this moment, you showed a mirror up to King Auberon and Queen Titania, a mirror of the fairies, and they thanked him for it, basically.
You showed them that they were the problem, and they thanked you for it, and they loved you for it.
And they're basically saying maybe... And Nuala ultimately says maybe you should do the same for those who come for hell. Is that you should show a mirror up to them of the problems that they have caused and why there is hell. And it leads to an interesting outcome, because we do hear from Morpheus that, this intervention by Nuala here on the staircase helped change his mind ultimately, based on their discussions and the chat that they have.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because in the last episode we hear that he did have 2 considerations for it. Maybe one of them was the one he ultimately chose here. But it's interesting, Nuala's intervention here is really critical.
It's really important. Yes, it's massively important that Nuala was there at that particular moment to give some guidance to Morpheus on that choice. One of the things I just want to say about that Midsummer Night's Dream moment, as well, that's that segment in it, just the way it's described as a time where there's a very soft boundary between our realm, or the earth realm, and the lands of Fae. It really reminded me of another story from Neil Gaiman, this Stardust, which starred Charlie Cox in the movie. The line between the fantasy realm and our normal earth realm being a weak boundary at certain points on the earth. Yeah. And I'm sure that's where Neil Gaiman took some inspiration for his book, Stardust, as well. That just from this idea of having those soft points between the two lands, fantasy and reality, I suppose. I like that as well. Anything else about Midsummer Night's Dream?
No, not for me. But I really like how it's sort of interwoven into this story. It's really, it's a really great use of the stories that exist and involving them in new stories. And I think Neil Gaiman's always been great at doing that. Taking existing stories and putting a twist on them, or adapting them differently, or and spinning them differently into a different piece of work. It's just so good to see, as always.
Absolutely. It's also great to have Will Shakespeare back, because we had him in season 1 where they were making their first pact between each other, that he would allow his stories to develop and they would last forever. That was his dream. So I'm glad they were able to bring that back here.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go into our next top moment, because it's revealed who is the owner of hell now. So the opening of the episode is where it follows on from last episode, where the threat was made by Azazel to either give him the keys to hell or he would consume Nada. And then we have the discussion between Dream and Lucian, where Lucian's asking, well, is that a bad idea? Because don't be angry at me, but isn't that a bad idea? They're demons. They belong there. They're going to be working there anyway, so why not give the key over to them?
But she's playing devil's advocate,
Kind of, I think she believes it, and I would too. I would ask that question as well. Why not give it to the demons? They're there. But the whole point that Morpheus understands from having been in hell is that the reason for Lucifer being the king of hell is not because Lucifer's a demon. It's because the demons need a leader so that they stay within the bounds of hell. He realizes that if Azazel were to get the keys to hell, he would expand that realm. He would take over more, and the rest and the entire creation may eventually turn into a hell reality if Azazel got his way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically saying he can't be trusted. I love how the opening of this episode is sort of the completion of Azazel's offer to Morpheus, that threat that if he doesn't give him the key to hell, he will consume Nada. But also that it then becomes Dream's response to that, which is basically, I'm not going to be threatened in my own realm, and I will give you my decision tomorrow with everyone else.
Yeah.
So he doesn't give any indication as to whether he'll accept it there and then or later. And this is when I think with Lucienne sort of playing that devil's advocate about, well, you get the key taken off you and it goes to Azazel, and you also get Nada. So you get, kill two birds with one stone here. Yeah. As you say, he's a bigger threat. I just have to say, I think Azazel's look, both in human form, I just like the look of the actor who is playing him here, just really screams demon. He's got the features for it, I guess. And also just that look and threat is just so good, I think. Yeah. The multiple mouths of the demon universe of Lord Azazel.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. But we have the decision made.
Yes.
From Morpheus. He brings all the groups together to announce his decision. I like that he speaks to each of the groups, saying which ones he considered and which ones he felt warranted consideration almost. We already mentioned in the last episode that the servant of the Lord of Order had presented his offer and he was shut down immediately from Morpheus. Similar happens to the Lord of Chaos. So effectively Chaos said Chaos will follow you forever, and Morpheus knows, well, that's not true. They didn't want that. They just wanted to make sure that nobody else got it, but they'll be fine with the outcome. He says to the representatives of Asgard, if they get it, then it will just add to the fighting. Hell is its own realm and needs to be treated as such. So for that same reason that he turns down the Asgardians, he also turns down Susanoo no Mikoto, and that proposal to incorporate Hell into their underworld as well.
Yes.
So all of them accept this because the final decision is he gives it over to the two representatives of the creator, the two angels that came down to view the proceedings, handing it back over to more angels to take over Hell, just like it was given to Lucifer to take over Hell.
It's kind of interesting here because it said about how Nuala's intervention, but there's also a hint of what Lucifer says to Morpheus as well.
Absolutely.
In the second episode, around, heaven being hell's reflection or dark shadow. Because he said, here Morpheus, in sort of making his decision, says hell is heaven's reflection. They define one another, and it obligates him to entrust it to those who serve in heaven's name. So it gives it, as you say, then to Remiel and Duma, the two angels. Which, of course, makes Azazel not a happy bunny. Or a happy demon bunny.
No, absolutely not.
And I just love how this goes, how effectively then, he seeks to attack Morpheus in the dreaming, and tries to consume Nada's soul, but she is pulled out. But as she's pulled out and freed from Azazel's sort of grasp, he comes round and consumes, or seemingly consumes, Morpheus. But I love how you get the inside of Azazel.
Absolutely.
And just all these people that have been consumed in the almost making up these fibrous elements of his innards.
Absolutely.
It's just so nicely done. But ultimately he has unwisely attacked the King of Dreams in his own home and world and realm. Which means ultimately what we find out is, it doesn't work because the reality in this realm is what is dictated by Morpheus.
Exactly. It reminds me of how John Doe was taken out back in season 1 by Morpheus, again bending reality to his way of thinking, and John Doe believing that he was able to beat Morpheus inside the dreaming, and that can't happen. He can't be beaten there. So it's effectively just twisting Azazel completely and turning him into an ornament that will sit on the side and think about what he's done, like a naughty
little
demon.
glass bauble.
Like
it's almost like he's become an Azazel egg timer or something, or it's like a teardrop, kind of little glass ornament with big deadly Azazel inside.
Yes. And he's very lucky, that's kind of the point that's made a little later on, that Azazel is very lucky that this is all that will happen. Morpheus isn't going to punish him. He has no anger towards him. He's just going to let him sit there in the naughty stool for however many centuries it takes for him to realize his mistakes and fix his manners, as
exactly.
Morpheus says, which I like. And he does get to free Nada as well. So Nada is out now. Entirely tormented, of course, and going through some serious problems as she gets her final release from this hell dimension and from inside of Azazel as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What did you think of this, though, John? As this choice that the two angels that came down to view what was going on are the ones that leave with the keys to hell?
It made a lot of sense to me. I think, I think going back to the conversation between Dream and Lucifer, where Lucifer is saying, this was going to happen anyway. It didn't need to be me. Mm-hmm. It was the creator was always going to create a hell. So just allow him to create another one. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you've given him the keys to hell. Yeah. Create another Lucifer. Yeah. And, whoever takes it up and punish them,
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But you deal with the mess that you wanted in some respects.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about the comics here, and I hope this doesn't ruin it for anybody. It's the same choice that's made, so there's no difference there. But I think they went a bit deeper in the comic books into what the angels felt about this. So the angels don't realize they're going to get the key. Mm-hmm. It's quite obvious now, looking back on the 3 episodes and that conversation with Lucifer, that is what's going to happen. This is the creator's plan. The creator knows hell has to have a new host. He sent them there. They will be going on to hell. Doom, I think it is, of the 2 angels, breaks down completely when given the key. And now the 2 of them are banished to hell to look over. So in the same way that you have Lucifer after 10 billion years saying, I've had enough, I need to go, and I didn't deserve that punishment, you're now starting a new cycle with 2 new angels that didn't believe they deserve the punishment that they get and are looking at it as a punishment. They believed they were doing the creator's will, going to the dreaming just to watch over it and report back the choice of Morpheus. But it's pretty obvious that was what was going to happen. And if you think back on the story. Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, it's a shame they didn't have as much sort of focus on the angels once the decision was made.
Yeah.
Because it seemed as though they just accepted it and that was it. Off they pop down below.
And they do. And they absolutely do accept it in exactly the same way. In the comic, it's accepted, they move on, but it's just that moment of Duma realizing, oh, we are now part of the plan and we are now punished, we are now sent, which would have been great to see that reaction, I suppose. So
even that breakdown, that notion of being betrayed almost.
Almost, yeah.
In terms of, well, you weren't honest with us about why we were really here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose that's exactly the same conversation that comes from the Lucifer piece, which is
exactly. Yeah.
I thought I was rebelling against the creator, but actually I was just doing exactly what the creator wanted, and this is happening again to these two angels. And I think this part of the story is open to a little bit of interpretation as well, and a little bit of obviously perspective coming as a Catholic to the story as well, and a Christian to the story as well. That's where this is set in its own way, but also it speaks back to the line. You remember when Morpheus comes out of that discussion with Azazel and talks to Lucian, he says, I started earlier with no candidates for the keys of hell. Now I have 2. The 2 are the angels that arrived. That's Morpheus's moment when he sees the 2 angels sent down by the creator, where he goes, well, I know I have to give it to the 2 of them because that is exactly the right plan. He gives the key back to the creator and then he can move along. But now he has to manage dealing with all of the other people who think they are
Okay,
entitled
get
to
it,
the, to the
yes,
key of
yeah,
hell.
exactly.
And most importantly, has to deal with Azazel, who's threatened the life of Nada. So it's such an interesting way of framing the story. And I definitely read this a couple of different ways. When I read it originally, I read it in multiple different ways going, hang on a second, when does Morpheus know? When is the point that this decision is made? When is it out of his hands? When is he playing into the creator's plan? And how did you deal with all the other people that he's got in his realm? Which is just kind of cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, completely agree. As I say, I think ultimately it would have been really good to have seen some kind of reaction, immediate reaction from the angels.
Yeah.
When finally understanding the plan, which they didn't realize they were a part of. So yeah, no, really good. Yeah. But with that, then the guests begin to leave. And Dream has his moment back with Lucifer and also with Nada, who is recuperating in the meantime. In the dreaming. Yeah,
there's lots of big moments here. And again, these issues are issues 20 to 28, 21 to 28 of a comic that stretched on for another 50 issues beyond that, almost 100 issues beyond that, beyond this. So there are pieces that are set up here. There's moments here that are really important. Him being told by the Fae that Nuala is going to be staying with him from this point onwards, that Nuala is a gift that they were leaving behind, regardless of whether the keys were going to the Fae or not. All they wanted was that there would be no further dealings of the Fae, and they were sacrificing Nuala. There were no more fairies that were going to be sent down to hell as part of that arrangement. That gets dealt with. The angels agree that there's going to be no further tithe being paid by the fairies, but Nuala must stay. And it's just an interesting conversation because Nuala again thought that she was going to be going home. Morpheus doesn't want to keep her as a slave there by any means, but she's told if she goes back to Faerie, it'll be even worse for her. She'll be treated like a rejected gift and won't be able to live in the land proper. And then we have a little interesting reveal. That she's been using a small magic to mask her true self.
Yes.
Again, slightly different and a bit weird why it is the way it is in the TV show. It is just her voice. She has an Irish accent that she has
glamoured everyone. And the glamour is there at the request of Queen Titania.
Yeah, but it's just her voice.
Yeah.
In the comic, looks very different. The whole piece in the comic is that the fairies are beautiful creatures. They're absolutely gorgeous to everyone that they look upon, or that look upon them. They're beautiful. And in the comic, she takes the glamour off and she's not a beautiful creature. So it is literally, in this case, it's saying her beautiful English accent is taken away and she's left with an Irish accent, which could be taken slightly offensively by us Irish, but I'm only joking. We don't take that offensively. And Dream seems to like it, so it's okay.
Oh yeah, no, he says that's much better.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's interesting so I'm guessing they've all got that glamour, even, Cool Can.
Cool Can should have an Irish accent as well, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, that's good to know, because I did think that they should have.
Yeah.
As within this world.
Yeah. I think I referenced last episode about the fairies being of Irish mythology in Sinners, most recently called out there as well. So they should all have the Irish accent, or at least certain levels, I'd say, of the group. So Nuala seems to be of a different level than the Queen and Kings.
Yes, and whilst most of the guests leave, there is one that stays behind, with Loki effectively staying behind. Dream does notice that Loki has got a pendant around his neck as he's being carried off by Thor, which is the pendant that was being worn by Lord Susano, and that he has altered his look so that he is taken back to prison in Asgard, rather than him spend the rest of his life down there.
I love that they've got him wrapped up in ropes, and they've got him a cloth over his mouth, and he's basically kicking and screaming, not wanting to go, because it's not Loki at all. he's being dragged away, and both Thor and Odin are kind of going, well, obviously he doesn't want to go back to his prison cell, obviously, that's why he's kicking and screaming. But very quickly, Morpheus finds Loki inside. It's interesting, Loki specifically said that even as a trickster god, he can't pull the wool over Morpheus's eyes in his own realm, so not worth trying at all. But he does still try here. He does attempt it. But comes to an interesting arrangement with Morpheus, where Morpheus is going to replace Loki in the underworld, in his dungeon, effectively, with a dream vision of Loki, which will allow both Loki and Lord Sasano to be free.
Yes, exactly.
In the world, and back to their places, because he couldn't leave Sasano and Makoto in the place of Loki in the underworld, and Loki doesn't want to go back there. So he's going to let both of them free, but under the understanding that Loki is now in debt to Morpheus.
Yes.
Again, very important. Or may become important in the future. Loki's very reluctant to be in anyone's debt, especially someone like Morpheus who will call in that debt in the future at some point. So that'll be interesting to see what that means in the future.
Yeah. Excellent stuff.
Any other guests that you want to talk about who are leaving?
I like the fact that we have the Lords of Order and the Princess of Chaos leaving, who calls Morpheus Mr. Dreamy as they go, and it's like, oh no, we were only joking about sort of harassing you till the end of time.
I made that up.
We just didn't want anyone else to get hell, which was quite good.
Yep.
I think Lords of Order were orderly as possible, where it was just like, yes, you came to the right decision, even though we're disappointed. Yep. Thank you, and all is in order. Stamp.
Absolutely. And then there's the demons who leave. I guess on their way back to hell as well. They will be going back to hell because that's where they live and that's where they belong. They just don't own it. But they do apologize for Azazel. As they leave. And then I guess the last guest that gets to leave is Nada, who had been saved by Morpheus, but she stays for a little while, is given her own wing of the dreaming.
She's in recovery, isn't she?
Yeah.
Ultimately, Morpheus wants to see her. Lucien says, I'll go and check. And they have this very awkward meal, really, between the two of them, where, ultimately she demands the apology from Morpheus, yet he can't bring himself to apologize. It's that I think perhaps I should apologize. And she's kind of like, after all that I have gone through, the hunger, the cold, the heat, the cuts, the heartache, she rips him a new one. I wept and waited all that time because of you. And, she demands that he looks at her when he tries to bumble an apology and slaps him into sobriety, really. Because she's there and she says, he's like, how dare you? And suddenly he goes into that pompous regalness and just
saw that face of the child back out.
And it's like, what will you do to me this time? She just puts it to him. And yet she's hugely graceful in the fact that, once the apology is there and he has said sorry, she's saying, well, there's no point lingering on the past. That's hell enough for anyone. Let's look to the future. But her future is one without him. She wants to live again. She wants to be part of the waking mortal world. She will not come back to him. And she says, you believe you love me, but I wonder if your kind is capable of love. Are we, or is it that kind of whole Greek mythology thing, the playthings of the gods? And just to keep them amused in their eternity, effectively.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, she does kind of then put the marker here for one of the other endless, where she says, I believe you think you love me, but you do not. You want what you cannot have, and that is not love, that is desire. So, it's been said.
It has. And we know from season 1 that Desire has always tried to have machinations to take down Dream. They do not like Dream at all. Desire tries to use everything they can to get under the skin of Dream, and that would be an amazing plan to have lasted 10,000 years without Morpheus knowing that Desire was involved. But Desire is involved in everything, as we mentioned before. Desire believes that desire is the basis of all acts. So, of course they're involved.
Yeah. No, so, but it's really good. Nada is clear to Morpheus as she says, farewell, Kaikul, I do not love you.
Mm-hmm.
And he is not a happy bunny. I love the effect of the darkness and the lightning and his eyes, like this ghostly white, looking angry and real. Yeah, real angry.
He just looks like a petulant child.
That's a petulant anger. Yeah.
Who didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah.
They didn't get the ice cream they wanted. Yeah.
So I thought this was an excellent sort of sequence.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Where she really sort of puts him to rights, really. Even with the slap and even with his kind of comeback to her, she's like, I've had it all from you. I don't, what else can you do to me?
In hell for 10,000 years. What could you possibly do that would make it worse?
So I thought this was great.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. And yeah, you're right. Just that line, you mentioned it there, just the line that she says to him, I burnt, I froze, I starved, I wept, I waited, and you think perhaps you should apologize. Absolutely love it. Brilliant stuff. That's it for our top moments, but I do want to talk about the final Lucifer addendum, I suppose.
Yes.
When Dream goes to meet Lucifer on the beach and gives the outcome of what happened with the keys of heaven. It's actually a beach in Australia in the comic books, but in the TV show, it's in the UK, of course, because most of the filming took place in the UK.
Yeah, it's by the Seven Sisters.
It's by the Seven Sisters. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Beautiful location, though.
Yeah, I've never actually been, but it's an iconic sort of white cliffs, chalk cliffs that go ultimately into the White Cliffs of Dover. Right. But it's before that, and it's called the Seven Sisters.
Very good.
They just rise up out.
Yeah, very good. And there's one, I would say, pretty massive change to the dialogue here from Lucifer. Unfortunately, on the podcast here, we can't say the words that Lucifer specifically says. Yeah, about the creator. In the comic, actually, what Lucifer's intention is, after all of these millennia, these 10 billion years of ruling hell, Lucifer is watching the sunset or the sunrise. I think it might be the sunrise, and says, "Oh, do you know what? I have to hand it to them. They do create amazing things." So.
Yes. But I mean, here, it's basically, I do like that Lucifer says to Dream, I wish I had thought of that, just to give the keys back, effectively.
Yeah.
And, it seems as though their feud has settled, here.
Yeah, because Lucifer admits she was angry at the creator, not at Dream.
Yeah.
That's where all of the anger had stemmed from, is the anger against the creator. So, what a great way to leave their story. And that is probably it, I think, for Lucifer. As we mentioned, in the last episode, this now spins into, Lucifer's story of walking the earth.
Yeah.
So that's probably the end of times between, Morpheus and Lucifer. Great way to go.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
John, any notes, any points that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to talk about?
No, none from me. I think I've mentioned everything I needed to.
Excellent. Well, with that, what did you think of this episode of season 2, chapter 3, More Devils Than Vast Hell Can Avoid? What's your final thoughts?
Again, it really, really strong. I give this 5 Mr. Dreamies out of 5. I just loved the payoff with giving the keys to hell back to the creator. I loved Nada not giving Dream what he thought he would be able to command or get at his whim and will. I love that, she leaves along with the other guests in order to go back into the waking mortal world. I love the fact that he goes, well, it's changed out there, it's dangerous. And she's like, well, I've been in hell.
Exactly.
How can it be any worse than that?
Stay here, I'll protect you. It's like, have you not learnt anything? I don't want to stay with you. Yes.
The payoff with Azazel, really good. I love the connection to Will Shakespeare's play. A Midsummer's Night Dream and the Long Man, and how the resolution between the differences between the dream and the fairy realms, and how that connects into his decision making. And I just really, really like all the connections here. It's acted really well. It's just interesting as well, just how it's all portrayed. So for me, 5 Mr. Dreamies out of 5.
Fantastic. Top rated episode so far this season, yeah.
That and the last one, yeah. Derek, what about yourself?
Yeah, it really was an excellent closing out of the first arc of this season. Loved seeing it brought to screen because it just delivered on everything I wanted to see. Absolutely loved it. This is the best episode, but this arc in itself has been fantastic and couldn't have been done without the first season. You couldn't have started the show with this arc, of course, but it always felt like the growth point in the comic book. As I said earlier on in the podcast, when Morpheus is given the keys to hell, as a comic book reader at the time, I was going, how is this story going here? But the possibilities that were there from the end of this arc where you go, well, if it went there, where's it going to go over the next 50 issues? Yeah. And that's where we are now. Where is it going to go now? Where's the rest of this story going to take us for the rest of the season? Yeah, excited to see. Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much for that, John.
Yeah.
Let's get some feedback from our wonderful fellow dreamers. We have our email in from Coffee and Vodka.
Yes, Coffee and Vodka says, greetings, fellow free defenders. Sorry if I've waxed far too poetic about a TV show, but damn if this episode and season thus far hasn't seemed less like a dramatic fantasy as much as it has a moving work of art. Mm-hmm. All the more amazing considering David S. Goyer, the writer of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, helmed it. Talk about digging yourself out of a hole. Anyway, the transfer from page to screen, even with its necessary changes, far from being as occasionally contrived as season 1, flowed almost supernaturally with, pardon the pun, dreamlike special effects, fantastic acting, and a pitch-perfect soundtrack. Dream's regret felt as real as Nada's controlled ire. As for the centerpiece, A Midsummer Night's Dream, this could have been its own whole episode, but was still staged beautifully. So much more that could be mentioned, but again, I'm trying to keep it to an email rather than a novel. In short, another very wonderful chapter in a continually pleasing story. 5 Azazels under glass, thumping Chloricans, and Puck Hughes out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka. Great stuff, Coffee and Vodka. I'm really glad you're enjoying it as much as I think we are.
Definitely.
And love the Puck Hughes out of 5. Nice one.
Absolutely. It's so interesting that you mentioned David S. Goyer's involvement here. We've interviewed David S. Goyer twice. In fact, once for a conference call, and once John got to meet him when he was promoting Constantine in its first season.
Yes.
The TV show when it was called Constantine, not Constantine. Of course, the American version. But David S. Goyer is a writer who has been involved in pretty much every DC adaptation that came to screen, sometimes in a major way as the main writer on some of the TV shows and some of the movies. And some, he's involved in the Dark Knight trilogy, for example, Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. David S. Goyer has a writing credit in there as well. He's very heavily involved. I don't know what happened, how he got this position, but all the way back in the start of Warner Brothers turning their comic books into TV series and movies back in the mid 90s, I think it was, David S. Goyer's credit would start to appear on everything. It's like they, rather than going through comic books, they just asked David and he would know what issues to pick up or what storylines there were. Because as far as I know, he wasn't a writer at DC, or anything like that. He just is very good at kind of picking the right things to translate. And yes, he hasn't had success in every single one, but if you look at his credits on IMDb, there are so many that he has been involved in. It's unbelievable. So,
and some really good ones.
Absolutely. And Sandman is definitely up there at the top. I remember seeing his name all over the place when they were trying to develop different comic book properties into TV shows and movies back in the 90s and early 2000s. So it's great to see him still working on such great projects as something like the Sandman as well. But yes, not everything can be as wonderful as this. No. I'd say that. No. Thanks so much for your thoughts on this one, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Over on Facebook, Dr. Bob Phillips gave his thoughts on this episode. He said some absolutely beautiful moments here, from the revelation of the most lovely accent. Sorry, John, but Merseyside is never going to do it. The stars in Morpheus's eyes, of the closing of the final doors, and the exist of the fashion thing, whose mythical aid I need more than almost any other. Spider/gloop demons are definitely the creepiest, and I have the feeling that the Loki deal may end up going sideways. Very good, Dr. Bob. There's a couple of things that you touched on there that we didn't mention at all.
Yes, my accent.
Well, no, the most lovely accent apparently is the Irish accent that Nuala has.
It is, absolutely.
It's not my accent. I don't have the same accent as Nuala. She has a lovely accent. And John actually doesn't have a Merseyside accent.
No, I have a little bit. I'm a woolly back, technically.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Lancashire.
Lancashire, yes. Lancashire accent on a
I'm from the Red Rose County.
Yes.
Bob is from the White Rose County.
Right. I see, of course, yes. Dr. Bob is not from Lancashire, from
so
Yorkshire.
A North Yorkshire accent's not going to make it either.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Gloves off.
But as for the mention of Morpheus' eyes, like you mentioned that, John, just that as the final doors close, as Nada leaves, you see Morpheus' eyes returning to those.
No, that is true.
Those universes.
Yeah.
So this is how it's always portrayed in the comic. Whenever you see Morpheus' eyes, you always see them as universes inside his eyes. But you couldn't really do that in the TV show. They felt it would be a bit weird. His eyes would just look black most of the time when you're at a distance. So this is the use of them here when he has that moment of Nada finally leaving. The fashion thing, which is mentioned, I think by Lucien.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I'm with Bob on this. I could have that mythical aid as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fashion thing.
Come over here and sort out my look for this week. Absolutely. I do think that moment with Merkin as she took down Chronozan last episode, that spider gloop demon, is definitely a creepy moment when she just covers him in webs and ties him all the way up. I think that was a really creepy moment in episode 2.
Yeah, and certainly the Loki deal is dangerous.
It is.
But can he go toe-to-toe with the Lord of Dreams? Who knows? Maybe outside of his realm. Who knows?
Yep.
But good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob.
I guess we'll see you in the second half of the season. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Thanks for all the feedback so far. Keep emailing it into us. Now that we've started our coverage, we want to hear your thoughts on the season. So continue to email us into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Or go on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. And that's it for the first arc of The Sandman. We'll be back later in the week with The Sandman 204 Brief Lives.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow dreamers, for joining us for our coverage of Chapter 3 of Season 2. Until next time, of course, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep dreaming.
Bye.
Bye.